Anybody asks you if it's recorded, it's okay. Just say yes, agree.
Or got it.
It says, yeah, for Google.
Because this is gonna, you're also streaming live, right?
And so live on Facebook, and hopefully I can go live in the event. We'll see what happens here. Otherwise, I'm gonna. Yeah, come on. Let's go live. What's wrong with you, Air Zoom? I'm logging into Facebook again. I am logging into Facebook again. All right, let's work this out. Where's the live button? Live one. Let me do this. One second. Let me make other person a host. Let's go live. Come on, Facebook.
Yeah, my Facebook is being a little bit slow too today.
Yeah, it's not letting me go live on Facebook. I'm having an issue here.
They were saying that at last night's meeting too, that Facebook seems to be having a problem.
Becky, as long as you're here, are you still interested in a Thursday lapidary class up at Potomac Beads?
Sure.
Okay. What time are you planning on leaving for the day? So how early do you want to take a class, or how late do you want a class to start?
Well, that's the night of our board meeting, so I need to be home for the board meeting, but otherwise, whatever.
Okay. So is 10 in the morning too early?
No, I'm up early in the morning.
Okay. I was going to contact people anyway to find out, how early do you want to eat breakfast and pack up and.
Yeah, 10 would work for me.
Okay.
And be packed and just leave from there if that works too.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to take that lapidary class. I think that'll be fun.
Okay, good. Yeah, I haven't heard back from Lynn. I think you and she and I are the only ones who probably will be there Thursday.
Okay.
Well, Facebook is not letting us go live today. Facebook is having an issue here.
Yeah, they are. They were saying that at last night's meeting too.
What it was last when we were doing it, Rana, you mean? Okay, well, maybe we just.
Well, we should be, oh no, I guess we can't post it afterwards if we're not going live.
Otherwise, we're not going to be streaming live. We'll just do it and upload it later.
That sounds fine.
Wait a minute. Now it's working.
Yay!
Bead Society.
Holy moly, my Facebook's slow today.
Yay! Now
Yay!
we're so good there. Welcome, everybody. I hope you can see us. I know that Facebook has been having a little issue, so I appreciate you waiting for us. We're just a tad late. Welcome. I'm Rochelle from Bobby Bead and Team Toho in the Upper Midwest Bead Society. And we've got a special show for you today. It's going to be so much fun. We've got Tamarin here from Tambrook Beads, and she's going to tell us about the history of the Toho challenges and contests and some experience being a Toho direct importer. And we have Rosner here from Good River Gallery, and she's going to be teaching her unique netted collared fringe necklace. And we're very excited. All the pattern for that was on the umps.org website, so I hope everybody downloaded the pattern. Proctor was supposed to be here today, but she's ill, so we're going to have her scheduled back again, and she will be here in September. So look for that again. It'll be the same project, so you'll have plenty of time to get your supplies for Tracy's class. So let's we are, let me see, we're going to spotlight, whoops. Oops, there we go. There we go. Spotlight for everybody. There we go. So I'm just so happy to also have our Toho challenge. So we're going to give you a tour of this too, but I do think we have one announcement first about the state fair. Becky, do you have an announcement for us?
Okay, on the demo day, which is August 31st, it's a Wednesday. I still need lots of people. The only slot that's filled is the 9 to 11. So I have one person at 11 to 1, one at 1 to 3, nobody at 3 to 5, and one at 5 to 7. So anybody that wants to volunteer, you get a free ticket into the state fair, and you sit and talk to people about beading. Bring a simple project, because you can't really concentrate on something that takes a lot of thought, and just show people what beading is about. It's a good day.
What time slot have you put me in for, Becky? Do you know offhand?
I didn't put you in, but if you'll take the 3 to 5, then I have somebody for that slot.
Okay, I'll do it.
Do you want to also talk about the Beads Connect Us?
We've had quite a few entries now for the Beads Connect Us. It's a special display area that it used to be Beadheads had it, and they gave it up to us this year. So we wanted to have a really good showing to explain what beads are about. There's no competition, there's no judging. It's just getting your name out there for people to see and show your work. We could still take a few entries if anyone is interested, and it doesn't have to be something made this year, just not something that you've ever entered in the fair before. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other announcements? Okay then. So I really appreciate you all joining us today. I'm going to take my camera off here and give you a little scenic tour of all the stuff going on here. Oh, I'm sorry if it's a little shaky. I'm working on my video skills here, okay guys? So we at Bobby Bead have the Toho challenge here. We are going to be bringing the display of the featured artists to Speedfest in Lancaster. So we will be in booth number 110. I'm sharing a booth with Maggie Thompson and Lisa. And so I really hope that if anybody is going to Bead Fest, that you'll be able to join us. So this is the 2022 Dawn of a New Day collection. And so this one here is made by a fun. We gave everybody the same colors. Each person, whatever it is that they wanted to with all the different beads. We have just so much fun, unique stuff. Katsu created this adorable little unicorn. It is just so cute. Wings. I mean, it just looks like it could take off and fly. I tell ya, it is so adorable. She's from Japan. And then we have Anna Lindell, and she is from Germany, and she made, I don't know if you ever saw last year, she made Egbert, adorable little creature. So this is Egbert's Island. This is the boat that Egbert took to get to his island, and this is his really cute little island. So it's this fun, three-dimensional little world, and we've just got so much fun stuff. Each artist decided what they wanted to make. So Oksana Baikova made this incredible design. It's got this wonderful cabochon right in the middle, and these beautiful flowers. Drapes down. It's just amazing embroidery work. It's just amazing. It's by Oksana Baikova. I realize all their names are backwards. I'll have to fix that setting. And then we got Sam Kilgore, and she made this incredible, it's really topsy-turvy, fun. This spirals up, and spirals down, and spirals around, and then all these really components. Fun. And then we have Sue North. It's called Timeless. And so it's really an amazing, beautiful, three-dimensional bead project. So if you come to the show, or if you come to Bobby Bead, you can see all these designs up close and personal here back at the showroom. We have Elizabeth Webb Edwards. And look at these little dragonflies. So, this is a giant orchid. So it is called Midnight Orchid Corsage. And she made this beautiful little guest book. So that when you're here, that's you sign this book. So I thought that was an adorable little touch. And we've got Cornelia Himmelreich. She is also from Germany. She made this incredible three-dimensional. It's braided, all these really neat ropes. It's got to be like 6 feet of ropes. It's just so much fun. And then they have these giant, like beaded beads right in the middle of it. And they're just so unique. Each one of these beaded beads capture all the ropes. Some of them are loose and are so three-dimensional. It's just really amazing how she's got just so much fun going on here. We've got Nikki Russo and Grandma's adorable little button box. It is just so beautiful, so detailed. And she's got this porcelain cabochon on the top, and each side of it is covered to the fullest. These little medallions and scallops. It's just so beautiful. And Auntie Warnick created this incredible lamp. It's got an LED light in it and everything, and then hangs by its straps. And so I just in love with this. It's all Cuban great angle bead, and it's just really. And these beads in the dawn of the new day are based on the winter sunrise. So I think the lamp is really gives it a great look. And then we've got Sandra Rothers over here in the Thunderbird. And this one's really cool too. Oh, Thunderbird lights all up. It's all purple and it's so cool what each person does. And so it's an amazing little top here. And you can see here with Sandra wearing it. Look down herself. So it's fun. Then we've got Janine Boland, who made this wonderful Stargate Aurora. It's embroidered purse, and it is just so amazingly detailed. How beautiful, you know, and it's just so adorable. It's got this wonderful tassel. And then we've got Jean O'Donnell, and she made this really neat design that has this collar on the back that stands up here. Here. You can see there's like a Viking knit, which makes the collar all stand up. And all these really neat little spools. Loads of fun. And so these are some of the featured designers. We have more and more coming from Japan. We also have some people who took the challenge on themselves. So if you took the challenge on yourself, we really encourage you to send in the pictures of your designs. If you live locally in the Minneapolis area or you're summering here, bring in your design as well and we'll show it off for you. We have this little vignette here that Barbara Ellis turned in. She's actually going to be our speaker in November. She's a raku artist, and so she's going to be our monthly speaker. But this, she took the challenge on herself, and she made 2 different necklaces. I really like this one here with the little dragon with one eye. But it's just so much fun. All the different things you can do with the Toho challenge. She just put it aside. So she made an embroidered bag with this wonderful cabochon of a goddess in the front and then wonderful sleeve robe. And she made a bracelet, all embroidered, and then a really fun glasses case here. And so the fun Hamza embroidered on it. So Barbara Ellis just put it aside when she wanted. So she made everything her imagination. So similar, Hannah Rosner made this incredible bag. It is, of course, recognizable as Starry, Starry Night. It is such a great embroider. I mean, look at this one. So beautiful. Designs. The tassels on the bag and the little grips on the bag. I mean, it's just really cute. And then, of course, since she was so inspired as well, she made this incredible headpiece. And so hopefully I'll find the right outfit at Bead Fest to sport headpiece. But it is just so amazing what you can do if you just let your imagination go and have fun with it. And then over here, we've got a design submitted. This says Alina Wayman. And so she made this really adorable, it's a little earring set, and then the bracelet that goes with it. And it's all mostly a lot of different icos and a really fun way of just sparking it up with the crystal. But it uses a variety of colors, and the Toho and the Toho natural dye colors. They're made with the safflower flowers, and so there's some of those in there. And so it's really a fun challenge. I'm really excited. So take pictures of your designs and send them in to us so that we can post them, and then we will choose featured designers from some of the people who turn in their designs actually.
Okay, and when is Speedfest, Rochelle?
Speedfest is August 17th through the 20th. Let me wait. 19th, 20th, and 21st of August.
Thank you.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We will be there. We're so excited. And then we'll have some teasers for you for the 2023 challenge. So we'll talk about that a little bit more here. But how all this fun started really has to do with our guest speaker, Kim Tamarin. She is one of the founding mothers of Toho Bead Importing in America and Team Toho. And so Crimp Beads was her company for years and years. So welcome, Kim.
Yeah.
Hi, Kim.
Hello.
So we thought we'd take some time because Kim is the one actually who pretty much got me involved with Toho Beads. So we thought we'd take a little bit time to talk to her about how this all started.
Okay. So
What I wanted to know was really, how did, sorry. Can you tell us a little bit, Kim, about the history of the contests and how they morphed into these challenges?
Okay. I think it was our second year in business. We were down in Tucson. My business partner and I were down in Tucson, and Toho executive director was there, and we happened to randomly run into him. So he invited us out to dinner, and during dinner he said, "How can I increase our market in the United States?" Because at that point, Miyuki was, and I think still is, the leading bead manufacturer and wholesaler in the United States. And I don't know, something switched in my head, and I just start saying things that they could do, such as run ads in magazines in the United States, Bead Button being primarily the first one, which they did full page ads in, and then changing the name of to Treasures from Antiques. And I suggested books, and I also suggested contests. And they went home back to Japan. I think 2 days later, they wrote me an email or a fax. We weren't emailing back then. It was the dark ages. So we were faxing, and they had already started implementing some of the things, changing the name of Treasures, and then asking how they should do an ad, and ask where they should place an ad, and then they did a book with design originals. They did several books with design originals for beginning beaders, and then we talked about contests. So the contest started several years after that, and they were first place we had I think, 4 categories at that point of bead designs, necklaces, wearable art, wall art, different categories. And the winner in each category took a trip to Japan with a partner. So it was 2 people per win took these trips to Japan. So then it, you know, we did that for, I think we did 4 of them. And we had a little bit of a changing of the guard in the organization, Toho organization. So we had a new person come on board as CEO. And so we stopped doing that. But then, I don't know, it's like beadwork had something that they would do, which were challenges that they would send out just a few items of beads, different kinds of beads, and challenge a few people. So I just kind of jumped from there and thought it would be a great opportunity for Toho to get their name out there more, bring in new up and coming beaders and kind of showcase them, which we did at Bead and Button Show by having a large showcase. And I think, Rochelle, if I'm not mistaken, you suggested we do mini kits. Is that right?
Absolutely, because working in the store, everybody always asks, well, don't you just have a kit? I just want to take it and go. So that's why I, keep, encouraging anything to get people more involved.
Right. So, that worked really well because, we'd have people that would line up at the Bead and Button Show. I mean, really line up to get their free kit. So we would have the designers that we chose or asked to participate in the overall thing, challenge, which was usually 10 designers. And then we had the mini kits that were given out at the show. And from there, it's just, it's blown up and been the incredible thing. And watching the designers go from being, the designs in the first show were pretty basic. And seeing now where you have light up necklaces or things that move, or these sorts of things is incredible just to watch the progression of the designers that are out there now. It's been really rewarding to see that growth in the designers and in the whole project. And now kits go out to a lot of different places. So I think it's been a very successful, campaign initially to get Toho's name more recognizable. So that was the start of the challenge.
We have a question of when did the challenge first start? What was the first year?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I think the first year was the olive and raspberry, metallic raspberry one. So was that 2013 or 2012, do you think?
I wish I had notes to find that out, but I really don't. And it seems like it was like just, I don't know. I think it may have been the last year actually that I was in business.
Even earlier than that.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think so. The first one, I think I took the first one and it was that olive and raspberry. So,
right.
So I think it was 2012, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
We've done a total, I think, of 11 challenges.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I took part in two of the contests, but you actually went ahead and designed that olive and metallic raspberry one. Can you tell us a little bit about how you design colors and put colors together? Because I think that's one of the hardest things that a lot of my students have.
Yeah, I think because I'm a huge fan of the metallics, and 221 has got to be my favorite color, because it goes with everything. So it just went with things that I went with things that I would design with. Things that I would use when I was making, and I figured if I liked it, everybody else would like it, obviously. And I mean, I like jewel tones. I call them the jewel tones because they're have a lot of depth of color for me personally. So, and the next year we did it, we had Rochelle and then Nicole from Starman. We all picked colors to add to the palette. So it went off into different colors, and I think, I mean, a different palette, and which was good. You know, we had different input every year. I think that was last year that I was even participated. That's why I think that the one that I did first one was the year before I retired. Because I didn't have any input after that on colors or anything. Not that I needed to do that, but just that I was turned over to Rochelle, I think pretty much after that for the color selection, wasn't it, Rochelle?
Yep. We decided after, because with one that you, me, and Nicole did, we each were like, this is my favorite color this year.
Right.
This is my
Right.
favorite color this year. And when you put it all together, it was kind of questionable at times whether or not the colors actually went together. When I was doing it, I actually finished that challenge. It was the only one I ever finished.
Wow. Yeah.
Started all of
To
that.
say that when I got that that kit, I had trouble with it too, but the piece that I ended up with ended up being still one of my favorites because it really was such a challenge to find a way to even get the colors to work together. So it was really, by the time I was done, I felt really like, not involved, what's the word I'm looking for? Fulfilled.
Yeah.
In making the whole thing go together, and just it's still one of my favorite pieces.
That was before we had themes for them. We were just kind of going on colors, what colors people liked, what were popular, or what we thought was a nice palette. So that evolved into themes, I think. And
I think the kits have gotten bigger. I mean, a larger selection. I think when we started, the first year we did it, we only had Toho beads in the kit. And I think the second year when the three of us had input, I think then we got some check beads in there from Starman. So I think
that first year I had drops from Starman, like the big petals.
Yeah.
But I don't think there were as many different kinds of beads.
Second year were the petals.
Yes. Yeah.
No. They were sort of almond shaped the first year.
Oh, yeah, that olive drop. It was like a teardrop.
Yeah, it was a fat teardrop. I loved it, but I had never used anything like that before. So it was really exciting for me.
We were trying to give people something other than a Swarovski crystal to use.
Right.
So that's the how the challenge came about. And like I said, it's very rewarding to see every year what people are doing and that it's still happening. That's always good too.
Right. Yeah. We're planning for 2023, and the name of 2023 is off of a Robert Frost. It's inspired by the Robert Frost poem that says, gold can never stay. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's in the beginning of the movie Outsiders and the end of the movie Outsiders. But it's pretty much about the green and gold and how precious it all is. And it's very momentarily. We have to really capture on the moment we have and the green and newness that we have, because everything is fleeting. And so one wonderful thing about next year's display is that some of the Toho re-beads will be in there. So there'll be Toho recycled beads in the next year's kit.
Cool. Very nice.
So the poem goes like this. nature's first green as gold, her hardest hue to hold, her early leaves of flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden stank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay.
So that's next year. And I do think that now that we've added more themes to it, it helps people to give just a little bit more meaning, I think, to the pieces they're making, and maybe can relate just a little bit more to then how to bring their voice out through their creativity. So at least that's what I'm hoping anyway. I do appreciate all your feedback.
Right, and this is already for 2023 that Rochelle is planning. So it is planned way in advance,
Right,
because she has to order the beads.
right. That's always a challenge.
Right. So let's move back a little bit, Kim, and tell us a little bit about what first inspired you to go ahead and bring Japanese beads into the United States. What inspired you to open your business? Was it a family member? What were you thinking before you decided to do this?
Well, actually, a friend and I, who became my business partner, we would go out to lunch and we'd talk about what we're going to do when our kids, our youngest, headed off to college, which was looming in our future. And we talked about we talked about like a little independent bookstore. And we both went home and told our husbands that we thought that was a great idea, and they both said, no, that's a crazy idea. So we let that drop. And then my neighbor my next door neighbor had the business Rainbow Beads, and they were importing from Toho, and they needed to retire. So we talked about buying their inventory from them, not having any experience with beading at all, which was as crazy as the bookstore thing, I guess. But we ended up talking to them about buying their inventory. That fell through. So we ended up just ordering our own inventory and starting Tambric Beads, Bead and Trade. And so that was, and that one our husbands all thought was, or both husbands thought was a better idea than the bookstore. So, and it did prove to be a better idea. And she retired, she left after 3 years. So I took it on by myself for the remaining time that we were in business. And it was wholesale only, except for a few designers, Hana. And only Toho beads. So that made us.
So did Rainbow Beads have something else too?
No, Rainbow Bead was only Toho beads also.
Okay.
They had a smaller selection. But I say that only Toho beads because that at that time there were other people carrying Toho, Miyuki, and Matsuno beads. So we were only focused on Toho beads, which was a nicer relationship with Toho because we were dedicated to them. For our, we dedicated our business to carrying only Toho beads, which is a conscious decision. We went to Japan the second year we were in business, and we went to Osaka, and we went to the Matsuno factory, and we also had an appointment with Miyuki, and then we were finishing up the trip with a visit with Toho. But we went to Matsuno. We weren't too impressed with Matsuno. Got back to our hotel and said, we don't really want to go with anyone else but Toho. So we canceled our appointment with Miyuki, went down to Hiroshima to see Toho, and never regret it. not going with the other two. So it worked for us.
Well, first of all, I think Chris was probably right in the bookstore, considering Amazon and the fact that bookstores
Right.
are closing. That was, pretty far-sighted. But when you tell me about going to Japan the first time, you told me a wonderful story about really not knowing what to expect, since Japan is really, business in Japan is still really run by men.
Right.
So,
Right.
so tell us how that worked out for you.
Well, actually, we met them the year before we went to Japan, but we had the same concerns that, because again, we were only communicating through faxes. And so, my name's Kim, my partner's name was Sydney. Both could be male names. Kim especially could be Korean. And so we would get our faxes would say, Mr. Kim Tamarin or Mr. Sydney Brooks or whatever. So we were really concerned about how it was going to work out having these two women show up at the airport to pick them up. And it turned out really well. And then going to Japan, I think for us, it was, for me particularly, one of those things I love best about my business is that meeting people and connecting. And I felt like we had that great connection with Toho, or I had a great connection with Toho, and that the gender thing was not an issue that I had thought it would be, that they were very accepting. And then by the time I retired, Iwao, who was much younger, obviously in his 40s, almost 50, I guess, started calling me mom. So then I knew that I had, the gender thing wasn't as important as I had thought it. Worried about being, they were very, very, always very kind and open and trusting. So that was, I felt that kind of broke a barrier a little bit of the female role in the business in Japan, which is still very, very much male oriented.
Yeah, it still really is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Roberta would like to know if Toho ended up producing any different colors for American tastes in addition to their colors for Japanese. Do you know whether or not they did different things, or did they just release all of?
No, when we first started, they have their domestic market and they have their export market, and the export market is much larger color selection than the import than their in-country selection. And so a lot of times when we'd ask for something, for instance, I was there and saw in Japan and saw a triangle that was like, I think it was a matte metallic. So of course I loved it. And when we got back, we put it on an order and they said, we can't do that. We can't make it for you. It was like, but I saw it. What? But it was because they were making it for the domestic market, not for export market. And, we talked a lot about it, and they finally decided to start making more colors for us. I met with the director of the factory at one point, and I said, "Do you have any questions for us?" And he said, "Yes. Why do Americans like so many colors?" We want to have what we want to have. It was like, one shade of red is not good. You need, more slashes. So instead of not making enough for us, not making enough color, not having enough colors for us, make more for your increase your production for the domestic market in your color combinations. And I was at a Bead and Button show years ago, and someone from Japan came up to me and said that she wanted me to come to Yokohama and do a show there because we have so many more colors than they can get in Japan. So, Toho packaged up all the colors I wanted, which were available to us, but not to them. And we took them, and then they took them to the show in Yokohama that I went to also. I mean, that I was running the booth, but Toho did all the packaging for me. So they just have a smaller color palette choice than the United States. And that comment from the director was funny because, you know, we are Americans and we want what we want.
Yeah.
We want everything. And apparently that doesn't so much happen in Japan. I mean, if you go into a Japan store, there's much smaller selection of colors. So.
Well, it's, you know, it's funny because we do joke that no matter how many colors we have, we never have the right color for the product, so we have to go shopping.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they did increase that tremendously, and that was part of the cannot. It was that they were making it only for the domestic market, which didn't make sense to me. Why would you make it anyway? They changed all that, and so I stopped getting cannot anymore on my order list. You know, they'd come back, and so went from maybe I'd have 2 or 3 pages for an order, and half of them said cannot, until they finally said no more cannot, can do. So good job. And I think it also had to do with the quantities that were ordered, you know, because they can't, you know, they make in 25 kilo quantities. And if you're only, at the time, we didn't have to order 25 kilos, you know, when we first started, they allowed us to order smaller quantities. So if I ordered like 10 kilos of a color, that meant 15 kilos were going to sit on a shelf somewhere. So I understood that to an extent, if they couldn't sell it in the domestic market. I don't know. It all worked out. All worked out and got up to the 25 kilos, and that was all good. So that was the color issue. And sizes.
So, what was your favorite part about working for Tambrook? Was it the interactions with people? Because I too found Toho just to be really warm and wonderful. But was that your favorite part, or was there something else?
Of having Tambrook?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that for me, the biggest joy I had overall for the business was making the connections with people and making a relationship with Toho that is just so special. I mean, I still go see Toho. I still communicate with them. You know, I've had many trips back there since I closed the business. So, you know, they're still a big part of my life. And then my customers. I also had relationships with my customers that I enjoyed tremendously. So it was less financial and more personal fulfillment for me. So, you know, I've met a lot of people, and really good people.
Well, that's how we met.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm so glad we've kept in touch since. By the way, this is probably a great time to mention that that we do have a case at the Minnesota State Fair, and the theme of that case is Beads Connect Us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, isn't that fun? So
yeah.
I think that Rochelle, you mentioned something at the beginning about that, didn't you? But we still do do we still have space, or have we gotten everything in for that?
Yeah, there's still a few more spaces, Becky said. And so, but that's the such neat thing about the Toho beads, is it really connects people all over the globe together with our common love of beading and our common love of such quality beads as well. And the show and tell. What did you do with the beads? This is what I did with the beads. And it brings a common bond, whether we speak the same language or not, it doesn't matter. We speak bead language.
Right.
And that's what I think is Toho has very much put out there as their number one part, is that they put their love into their beads, and the people who use their beads put their love into what they work. And then we want to, show the love of showing them off and appreciation. And I just don't see that from a lot of other bead companies or manufacturers in general that I've experienced with Toho.
Yeah, they've always been very proud of the work they do and the beads they create. And I've always enjoyed my affiliation with them because of the way they feel about their product and their people. I mean, they have people who have been working there forever. Forever. It seems like they don't change that often, except for the CEO has an assistant, and those change a little bit more frequently, but that's because of language requirements. They usually have someone on hand that can speak English well and deal with the American contacts. So I once asked the former CEO, he had a private email, and I didn't know, I didn't communicate with him, but he finally gave me his email at a certain point, and I asked him who his most difficult. He used it for the Asian market. He used that email for the Asian market, and I asked him about who were his most difficult customers, and it was the Asian market. He really liked the American market. People who he dealt with in the American market. Wasn't so crazy about the Asian market. I don't know. I'm not sure why, but he thought I think a little bit. Japanese aren't real straightforward when you're talking to them about, if you ask them something, they don't say yes or no. They'll say maybe. So you don't know where you are in negotiations with them, unless something really is like, I did hear no when I asked for something. Got a straightforward no on something, but that was very rare. So they're a fabulous company.
What was your favorite thing about visiting the Toho factory?
Oh, watching the beads being made. I mean, I was just thinking I would love to go watch them, see the process for the new beads and how they're doing those, how they're, because with the rest of their product, they start with silica powder and other chemicals and make glass, and then that's the process for starting the beads. With the beads, with the glass already solid, it'll be interesting to see how they reverse that process and make them liquid, melted. I mean, I just like to see that part of it. But it's an amazing process watching how they make the beads, and it gives you a good idea of why the beads are a little bit more expensive than check beads, because their quality control is so, things go through quality control at every stage almost, because they don't want any irregular beads to get into the bunch. Doesn't mean you won't find them on occasion, but you don't call your beads like you have to with others. So, and I've taken tour groups to Toho and taking them through. We go on a tour of the factory, and I think everyone leaves in awe that these little beads are produced, how they're produced, how they're made, how they go through processing. All the processes, can take several weeks for one bead. Not one bead, but one type of bead. The higher metallics or have more color colorations added, more finishes added to it. So it can take a while for these beads to be made. So it's very interesting.
And it's a lot more hands-on, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's a lot more hands-on there than some of the other factories. I mean, they do a lot of the work by hand instead of machines doing so much. It's a lot
Right.
of people manipulating.
Right. You know, they have, you see the cutting process. So everything starts out, well, like I said, silica powder with other, I don't know what's anyway, they melt it. And then they're cut into, the glass is cut into canes that are about 3 feet long. And so they do that. That process goes on all day, every day, I think, because the kilns run 24/7, because they can't turn them off, because then you lose the heat. So they cut them into canes. So they're making canes all the time. So they have tons of canes ready to go when they need a color. They only make X number of colors, but then they get cut and then they get dyed, or they get their metallic finishes or gold or whatever the finish is all part of the process. But they have to round the beads with heat, and it's incredible. It's incredible the amount of work it takes.
So Joyce would like to know how the beading industry is in Japan today. Do you know, is it as popular, or is it waning, just sort of like the problem that we're having here in the US?
I think it's similar to what we're having here in the US. Toho has branched out and is doing other things besides beads at the time. They're actually making jewelry. They have a line of jewelry that they create and sell in stores. So they have diversified in that respect, still using their beads. But I think it's not out of, I don't think it's out of the Toho office, which is in Hiroshima. I think it's out of the Tokyo office and run by his Iwell's younger brother, Hajime. So I think, they're diversifying, but then, like Rochelle said, the Asian clothing manufacturers have picked up. So hopefully Toho will pick up their production. COVID pretty much shut everything down for them also. So now they're having to get back up to production and having hiring more people to fill in now. People they had to let go earlier. So that's where they are. I don't have a real sense of what their sales are, although they are opening their own stores, bead stores in Japan.
And they have pop-up stores happen a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, we were there for the opening of the Osaka store, and that was years ago. And they've opened other ones, and they've opened them in like the airport. Hiroshima Airport apparently has a pop-up store. So they're opening more retail stores. But
yeah, and when they do the retail, I notice that they do have more jewelry than beads. So.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you very much.
So we want to buy pre-made jewelry. So I think that, when you sell your pre-made jewelry at the bead shows, people buy those as much as they'll buy your kit. And so
We do.
I think it's great.
I've noticed that a lot of what they're showing in the pre-made jewelry right now is the recycled beads. And that reminds me of something that Sean and I saw when we were at the Toho factory. Is they actually have an entire room that is just pieces of beads that they've culled. It's, canes that haven't made it, and it's the beads themselves all the way, every single step. So what ends up happening is actually at every step they cull, but when Sean asked what they do with all of that, they did say that even that gets recycled. So a part of every Toho bead is already recycled.
Right.
So they've always been really, really careful of the environment, even before they started this set of 100% recycled beads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roberta would like to know if you are still leading tours to Japan and to the Japan factories.
Yes. We
So
are.
yeah, this is sad, Roberta. So, you know, this is something sad because Kim did have one planned for October.
Yes, and we
So.
just canceled it this last week because the news out of Japan is not great for tourists at the moment. They do take, you can go as a group, but you have to register with a Japanese travel agency, and then you're assigned a person to go with you on the tour, who makes sure that you're masking and distancing, and they also plan your itinerary. So for us, we have a 3-week tour with 4 days of classes in Kyoto. And I don't know that we could have done all that. I don't know if they would have changed all that for us. So even though it's not until October, we just decided we don't know what's going to happen in October. And the day after we announced it, the government put on hold a domestic travel program that they were going to try to do to increase domestic travel, and still had the restrictions and everything. So we just decided, not knowing what was going to happen by October, whether they were going to even open up to tourists, whether they were going to have strict restrictions on us if we were there, or they're just going through their seventh, what is it?
Wait.
Pardon?
Oh, wait.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 7th wave of COVID. And what that means to people who are currently in Japan with their groups. If we were there in October, if they had their 8th wave, what would happen to our tour group? So we just decided we could not give our guests the trip that they deserve to have. So we canceled that. It was the 3rd time we canceled it. So we'll maybe go in 2023. But we've done 5 tours so far.
We'll think positive for 2023.
Yeah, yes.
Who knows? Maybe by then there'll be room for me.
Yeah.
It's on
I mean,
my.
I just canceled all of our hotel reservations yesterday and today, which was sad, having to cancel all these reservations, but
I totally understand. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun and informative, and it's inspiring all at the same time. Anybody
keep buying Toho beads from Rochelle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Of them here at Bobby Bead, and we're having a double sale on Monday. So this week's sale overlaps with next week's sale. So everything will be on sale on Monday for 1 day only.
Oh.
And so you have the weekend to play, and then you can figure out what you missed on Monday.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you very much. And now we'll just have a very small little break while we get ready for Hannah's class. We have Hannah coming up here in a moment. She's going to be teaching her netting, famous netting class. And so if you've all gone to umbs.org and got your pattern for her class, and get all your beads all ready and organized. So you've got a few minutes, get yourself another cup of coffee and get your beads out, your thread out. And what beads do you recommend mostly for this class? 11s, 8s, and 6s, or 15s, 11s, and 8s?
I usually do 11, 8s, 6s, and then drop beads, something for the fringe. So let me get set up and ready to go. And I should be ready. I had to rearrange a few things here on my table. So let me get set up for a few moments. And thank you very much, Kim, for talking. And also, meanwhile, while I get set up, maybe you can talk a little bit about the Peace Day, Rochelle.
I would love to. Let me just spotlight me for a moment. So we are making Toho peace rings. Once again, the Day of Peace in Japan is August. And the Toho peace ring that we have been doing now, I believe we're in the 5th year of the project. If we make a ring and take a picture of your ring and post the picture of your ring on the social airwaves, Instagram, Facebook, we're trying to combat all the negativity with positivity. So post a picture of your ring and say something positive to the world. And then Toho donates yen to the Peace Charity for every hashtag that you do. So when you post that picture, you hashtag Toho Peace Ring, and then you tag the company at Toho Beads so that they see it, and then they donate yen for the charity. And so for every hashtag, so what we're doing for the Day of Peace is we want to see if we can get the most beaders together at one time to make peace rings. Our Zoom account, we can have up to 100 people Zooming. And so our goal is to get 100 people beading peace rings all at the same time. And so this is going to be on August 4th, 7 p.m. Central. And then that would be 5 p.m. West Coast time and 9 a.m. the next morning Japan time. And so we have all kinds of people from Toho in Japan joining us. We have people, different Chinese designers, Japanese designers, and we're trying to get people from all over the world to join us. So if you can commit a half hour of your time to try to bring peace to the world with 1 gram of Toho beads, then make peace rings with us. And so join us, please, on Thursday, August 4th. That's 7 p.m. Central Time. So figure out where in the world you are and then join us. We will be making an event and we'll have the Zoom link in there. And we'll also be streaming this event live on the Team Toho Facebook page. So if you don't want to Zoom, if you just want to stream live and be with us live, but we want a world record of how many people can make peace rings all at the same time and try to bring awareness. Like I said, 1 gram of beads connects us together. And if you're beading together, getting to know each other, then how can you dislike each other? How can there be strife if we all are happy doing the same thing? And so put it on your calendar. Message me if you want to join for sure, for sure. Tell all of your friends, please, and get them committed because we want to fill all 100 spaces in Zoom. And then we would like also every country to join us. So if you have friends in other countries, I know they might have to get up early, but I believe 7 p.m. Central Time is 11 a.m. in Australia. So no matter where you are, it should work for you. So please join us. And we'll have all the information on the Team Toho Facebook page. So let's remove my spotlight. We're getting Hannah set up here. And so, oops. Do I have you all spotlighted? Let's see, let's get you spotlighted. There we go. On this fabulous bead tray. If everybody's got their patterns.
I dropped the pattern into the chat for anybody who still needs it. So what I'm going to be creating is a very basic netted necklace. And the only thing that sort of makes mine a little bit different is that I embellish it as well as putting it on some steel cable. I don't know if you can see this right here, but I'm going ahead and I start by stringing it on steel cable just to make it a little stronger, because that top area is the most delicate on these necklaces. So the first thing you're going to do is I start by picking my clasp. And in this case, I am making this piece for my friend Liz Volz. Elizabeth Volz was my college roommate, and I believe she's here. Elizabeth, is that you on mommy phone? No?
It is me. I am
Hi, Elizabeth.
I am having a little, hold on a second. The meeting host will let you in soon, I'm being told.
Well, you're in.
I know I'm
believe.
in, but I'm also trying to be in a way that I can actually turn my camera on.
Oh, got it.
Because there you go.
Because I let you in all the way, so it should be in your video settings.
Oh, I see you. Hi there, Elizabeth. So I am making this piece for Elizabeth, and she was my college roommate, and I'm making it out of white, and she has asked for a gold clasp, and I'm also going to have some gold little doodads in it, and I've picked this button as my clasp, so you'll see me do the other end. It's going to be a button and loop clasp, and I've gone already and started to string it on. Here I've put 2 crimp beads. I don't know if you can see those, and I'll be covering those up with what are called crimp covers later. And I've started to string it just so you guys didn't have to wait for me to string the whole thing. What I've done is if you have your instructions on page 3, it says to thread on an 8 knot. You could also use a 6 if you want, and 4 size 11s, and then an 8 and 4 size 11s. And I'm making this 17 inches for Elizabeth, because this piece does not really do well draping. It has to be right up at the collarbone, otherwise it kind of bags. And so you really just want to do it. This one's a really great piece to do directly for people instead of for sale, because you really want it to fit them well. So I had Elizabeth take a piece of thread or string and measure her neck. And once again, I'm making this in white. And while I am stringing this, I'm going to just be stringing it up to 17 inches with 4 size 11s and 1 size 8. And those 8s are going to be my connector beads. You'll see what I mean in a minute. And while I do that, I'm actually going to turn this over to Elizabeth, and hopefully she will tell us a little bit about her time working for the National Organization of Women.
Wow, unprepared. Completely
I'm
unprepared
sorry,
for
I
that.
really put you on the spot.
No,
there.
that's if I can't do that on the fly, you better check me into a nursing home.
All right.
So Hannah and I met in college. Probably her most vivid memory of me is me getting everybody up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do clinic defense on Saturdays.
I'm not a morning person. I am not a morning person.
No, but very patient with us. But so that was really, especially when I was in college, that was really the running the pro-choice task force on the college campus was the thing that I spent my extra time on when I wasn't studying. Swarthmore doesn't offer you a whole lot of that, as Hannah, I'm sure, will attest. But what I did have, that's what I did. We did clinic defense. That was the thing. I don't know how many of you remember a group called Operation Rescue, but that was the years in which they were blockading clinics. And so we were doing things to defend clinics and escort women into clinics. And so that was a lot of the work that I was doing. When I graduated, I started serving as an officer and eventually as state president of the National Organization for Women in the state of New Jersey. And I did that for 7 years. And then I went back to school and got a master's degree, and now I'm teaching. But the bulk of my life at this point has been spent on something that, well, we all know what happened last week. So my former roommate and current friend is doing me a giant favor by giving me the opportunity to wear something symbolic that I have a pin for, which is not nearly as elegant as what Hannah is doing, but the descent collar, which I will wear proudly very often to express my feelings about Dobbs. But that's you know, kind of, that's the short version. But if anybody has any questions about it, or any questions about clinic defense, or just wants to commiserate with me about how horrible the last week has been on the Supreme Court, I welcome that. But I'm also very appreciative of my former roommate and current friend for giving me the opportunity to represent something that's important to me when I go to all the meetings that I have to go to with candidates and I'm on the school board and different kinds of things where I have to dress up. This will be a very nice way of sort of making a quiet statement.
And of course, this piece, if you're not political, this piece looks beautiful in any color. And there are in the directions a number of different possibilities and options. For instance, adding a centerpiece and doing it in different colors. But I just happen to be doing this one in white because I wanted to for Elizabeth. So once again, what you want to do is you want to make sure that this is right at the collarbone. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this and see whether or not I've got these. And once again, all I've done so far is just done on the very thinnest of the steel cable, because we're going to have to run a needle through there. So we're going to have to do it on the very thinnest of wire, and it just gives a little bit of extra strength. And Elizabeth is now a grandmother, so maybe it'll make it a little baby proof for when she's wearing it and picking up her grandkids. So once again, now I'm going to go ahead, and this probably is going to be off camera. I'm just going to measure it to 17 inches and make sure, and then you'll see me go ahead and start to put the other half of the clasp on. So. Okay, I actually am at 18 inches, so I'm going to take a little away. There we go. There we are. So once again, you don't want this to be real loose. You know, those of you who like really long necklaces, unfortunately, this doesn't really work well as a long necklace because it has a tendency to bag at the center. Otherwise, it doesn't drape well unless it's right at the collarbone. So what I'm going to do is, I think I've got it down now to, and of course the 17 has to include the clasp too. So let me just measure, cut twice, cut once. So I'm just measuring it off screen here. Yep, that looks good. All right, so I've ended, oopsie. I've ended with a size 8 there. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little bit bigger. Then I like 2 crimp beads, which I've forgotten to bring out. Oh, I'm just throwing things on the floor. Good thing they're in boxes enclosed.
I'm hoping one of them isn't your lunch pass.
I used to lose my lunch pass all the time, guys. I'm still terrible at losing my keys. And Sean always picks up my keys and puts them somewhere where he knows where they are. And Elizabeth used to always just find she would find my lunch pass and put it places that she knew where it was because I was constantly losing it. But the thing is that the lunch ladies, by the time we were done, just knew me and they would be like, you again. All right, I guess you can eat today. You're pretty skinny.
Yeah, that's true.
So, all right. So I've gone ahead and I like 2 crimp beads. So I put, whoops. Let me go ahead. I put a crimp bead. Let's see if I can get it on screen. I put a crimp bead, size 8, a size 6. I'm going to do another size 8. Another second crimp bead, so that if one fails, then I still have the second. And I'll be covering these later with what are called crimp covers, which make these crimp beads look like little round beads. They're just a really pretty little way to make these look a little more elegant. And it just closes like a clamshell. You can probably see that. It just closes right around that crimp bead. But what I'm going to do now is I need to make a loop that's big enough to go around my my button, but not so big that it just falls apart. And I don't want the wire to show, so I'm going to just cover that with some size 11 seed beads. So the setup part is really important, but it's also not the most exciting, which is the reason I did a lot of it beforehand. I didn't want you guys just to watch me stringing beads this whole time.
Yeah, but we're busy trying to string the beads ourselves here, so it's.
I know. Don't worry, I'll wait after I get this done and let you guys catch up a little bit before I go on to the next. Also, as I get older, I've noticed that beads get smaller and smaller. So while you guys string beads, I can struggle with threading my needle. So I'm going ahead and just stringing on. This is going to be the loop. So I just need to make sure that this loop, you can see right now, it's way too small. So I'm just stringing that loop full of size 11s so that it looks pretty. Oh, Joyce, if you want to make it into a bracelet, just start with a shorter length that goes around your wrist. I've made these into bracelets. I've made them into anklets. They're really cute in the summertime as an anklet to wear with sandals. So you just, if you're making a bracelet, it's just shorter. And that's easy. There we go. It's maybe long enough. Let's take a look. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so see, see that loop is just the right size to go ahead and put. There we go. I love these. These are Terracast buttons, and I just love them because they look kind of vintage and they take a lot of abuse. They're easy to put on and take off. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just threading it back through the crimp beads, just like that. And through a couple of beads. Whoops, I missed every single bead there. So I'm going to thread it through the crimp bead, through a couple of these beads. And I'll be cutting off that extra. Now I have to go and get my pliers real quick, so I'll be right back. Okay. So you want to make sure that the most important thing about using this steel wire is you want it to be able to curve before you crimp it. If it can't curve and have a little bit of room, then you're going to really run into some difficulty with it getting stiff. In addition, because we're going to be going ahead and adding beads and adding thread in there, this whole thing will get an awful lot stiffer as you work. So you do want to really let this have some slack before you crimp it. So you can see I've really curved it up here. Now, Elizabeth, when you get this, the important thing about this, goodness, sorry about that. As I was saying, when you go ahead and you get this, you want to make sure that you curve it into your jewelry box or hang it, because I don't know if you can see this, but I'm about to actually fold this in half. And if I press it together, I end up with, can you see that little tip right there? Can you see under my hands? Can you see it's actually got a fold?
Yep.
If it folds like that, it will never come undone. So you really want to make sure you curve this into your jewelry box instead of fold it in there. And you'd never want to just sort of put it in a bag by itself and just let it, because you can end up with little creases like this that won't come open. So I've got that all curved, and I've got it under the crimp beads, and then I just take these crimp beads with my pliers and I smash them just like that. And then I'm going to cut off all this extra. Do that off camera. There we go. So there's my base. Now, there is something called a crimping plier, which look like this. And when you close it, you can see that it's got 2 holes in it. There we go. Can you see that? And you can crimp this using the back one first, and that makes it into a C-shot shape, and then the front one. But I'm going to leave that until the very end, because I'm going to be covering the whole thing with this, with the crimp covers, and I will be trying to go through these guys and around these guys with thread. So I've gone and I've threaded a needle with some 1G thread, and generally for this I actually do use Fireline, but I'm out right now, so I've done a double thread instead of a single thread of Fireline of the 1G. So I'm going to stop for a little bit and wait for folks to catch up. Okay, so let me know if you guys have any questions so far. The next thing we're going to be doing here is something which there was a wonderful bead book, I think by a guy named Hector. I can't remember his last name. Can anybody help me with that? It was called Indian Bead Weaving Patterns. And I think it came out in 1982.
It's
And
Horace
it is,
Goodhue.
say that again?
Horace Goodhue.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And it is out of print now, but he actually did a version of this that was a traditional Comanche version. And he called the next step, what we're going to do, plain spider. So we're going to be making a spider web out of beads. And once again, I'm going to wait for a little while before I start playing spider. Meanwhile, what I did is I poured out the beads that I'm going to use. I'm going to use some size 6s and some size 8s and some size 11s. Elizabeth, the bigger the number of beads, the smaller the beads. So the 11s are bigger than the 6s. And these are all, these size 11s are Toho. brand Frosted Rainbow. And then these guys are actually Preciosa, which is a Czech glass company. And then these guys are a Czech glass, and these are the little drops that I'm going to just put at the center front. And these are the company that used to be known as Swarovski, and we're no longer talking about.
I love it that we're not allowed to say their name anymore.
I know it's weird.
I feel like I'm
Mountain.
missing out on some interesting politics here.
Yes. So Swarovski crystal used to be a, I don't think I have the whole thing. So maybe Rochelle, and if Kim is still here, she'll help us. Swarovski crystal was a big crystal company, and it was located in Austria. And it did both interior design work and also stuff for fashion, and then stuff for the small bead companies. You know, it made beads basically. And it has recently not only stopped making things for the smaller bead companies, but we're no longer allowed to talk about it. So if it was Prince, it would be the bead formerly known as Prince, but it is the bead company formerly known as Swarovski now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I thought my world had a lot of politics in it.
Yeah.
Well, they want to sell their own products. They don't want to just be the bead person. They want to, just like Toho is going into making their own jewelry now, Swarovski is making their own jewelry, and they want to brand themselves instead of letting other people brand for them. And so they're just making really higher end stuff for the generic masses, and trying to make their own money themselves versus the other, I think, is their plan. But that was, so you can buy a lower grade product and use it, but it's under a different name. You can't use the word.
It's under Crystal Passions, I think.
Yeah, and so it's a lower grade crystal that they were. So I know there's always grade A, grade B, grade C, you know, just in quality. And so I think that's where they're keeping the higher grades to themselves and letting out the lower grades to the general public.
But there is a bead, a crystal company out of the Czech Republic called Preciosa, and their crystals are really quite lovely, and that's what I'm using here for your drops. So how's everybody doing with stringing your beads? Y'all doing okay?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Okay, I think let's give it one more minute, and at 12:33 we will start.
Or that's 2:33 to those of you in this time.
Oh, right, I'm on Pacific time.
That's quite all right.
3:33.
Yeah,
I could,
Elizabeth is in New Jersey.
Always.
Mhm.
Except when I'm a sophomore.
Yeah, right. So I've gone and I've added my double thread, and I've knotted it inside these beads. And it doesn't matter if you see it next to the knot. I did an extra knot right next to the crimp bead, and that doesn't matter because, once again, I'll be taking that crimp cover, which I've now lost, and I'll be just taking one of those and just putting it over the top here, and see how it just covers that whole mess. So you can make a real mess right there. Okay.
are you encouraging us to make a mess?
Absolutely, make a big mess, but only right here.
Okay.
So you need to be able to count to 5 to do this. I know, that's rough, right?
It is a set.
And you're gonna come out between the crimp bead and the first size 8. Whoops, not underneath here. Here we are. And you're gonna add, and this is, if you're following along, this is on page 4 of the directions. Right below where it says time to start playing spider. And you're gonna add 4 I'm sorry, 5. I just said you had to count to 5. See how good at math I am?
Oh, no.
Elizabeth actually went back to school for math,
I did.
which had very different than her time at Swarthmore, where I believe you were a political science major, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. So you're going to add 5 size 11s. You're going to add 1 size 8, 5 more size 11s. The first part of this looks a little funky, but it gets pretty easy and pretty simple very quickly. So 4 or 5 more size 11s, 1 size 8. And now you're going to design whatever you want the drop to be. So there it is. So I think I'm going to add one of these little gold guys, and then a size 6, and then maybe one of these bigger gold guys. And then one of the Preciosa crystals. Let's see how that looks. There we go. What do we think of that, Liz?
It looks beautiful.
All right. It's fun to make something for somebody when they're right there. There we go. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 more size 11. And this is called the stop bead, because it works as the little knot at the bottom. I'm going to skip that stop bead, and then I'm going to go up through all of the beads, including the size 8, but not the size 11s. So there it is. Okay. All right. So that's really what I would do in order to go ahead and start weaving this. But for this first one, of course, it's always a little bit different. By the way, I am going to be using these little, used to be called Swarovski crystals, but only at the very center of them, because as you can see, I don't have very many. So the center is just going to be a little fancier. So moving on to page 5 of your directions. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just come up to this section, and then I'm going to move over to our next connector. So I'm going to go up these 5 beads. I've got to make sure that that I've pulled both strands of this too, because I'm used to using a single strand. And when you use 2 strands, you need to make sure they're both tight in there. So there it is. I've gone up. Now what I'm going to do is add 5 more beads. I know it's counting. And I'm just going to hook into this little guy. Okay. There we are.
So you exit after the middle 8.
Right.
Okay, and then hook up to the other top 8 in the.
Right, the next one in the, so it's going to look like this.
Perfect.
Okay. There it is. Okay. Now, this is a little unusual. Generally, we would just start playing spider here. I'm actually going to go down and all the way through that because I actually want this section to now come up. What I'm doing is I'm creating a nice little diagonal at this beginning so that it doesn't look unwieldy. So this first thing, it's like peyote stitch, where the first thing is a little bit different than the rest. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back down. I haven't added any beads. I'm going to go back down through. Pull it tight. I'm going to go down through all of this mess. So I'm just making this a little more professional looking at the beginning. It's going to be a nice diagonal instead of just going directly into the spider web. So just trust the process, please. And I'm just going to come out here, right above the drop. There it is. Okay. So I've just moved my needle. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other side of this area right here. So I'm going to add 5 beads, 5 size 11s, 1 size 8, and 5 size 11s. And I'm going to hook into that top, the same top section. So it should look like that. Now you've done the very hardest part of this. Here, let's put it this way so it looks, oh, now it's upside down. All right, we'll do it this way. So it's right side up. Let's see. Nope. Holy moly. There we go. All right. So from now on, what we're going to be doing is really just going into all of these size 8s. Those are all the connector beads. Okay, you ready? We're gonna move our needle so that it comes out. Hold on just a second. We're gonna move our needles along the flex wire on the top so it comes out at the next size 8. Can you see my needle right there? There it is. We're gonna add 5 size 11s. And just hook into this 8. So we're just hooking into 8s and then adding 11s, 5 11s, hooking into 8s, adding 5 11s. So can you see what I've done there? I'm going to add 5 size 11s, an 8, and then a new drop. Now you could vary every drop, or you could vary every other drop, or you can make them all the same. I'm going to be making all of these the same until I get to the very center of the necklace, which may happen after this is all said and done. There it is. So here's the second one. I'm going to go up through. I'm going to skip the stop bead and go up through everything except for the 11s. There we go. And now I'm going to finish this part of the spider web, this side, by doing 5. Oh, I've done 6 here. I can't count. I did that on purpose so you can see what happens if you can't count. I'm going to just take that and I'm going to break that bead away. Hey, I'm an artist. I'm not a mathematician. There you go. Let's pour out a few more seed beads here. There we are. So you can see I've done the second loop here. I'm going to go through that size 8 and go on to the next connector. There it is. So I'm going to do, I think, 2 more, and then I'll back up and we'll pretend we've got the whole thing done, and I'll show you the embellishments. So give me just a second. I'm going to take this off camera for a minute. But you'll see me do 2 more of these spider webs. A lot of times it collapses a little bit right here. Can you see how that's sort of straight? When I put the next one on, it'll hold it out like this. Oh, am I off screen? I apologize. So you can see that this one's straight right now, but when I put that next one on, it'll open it up. So once again, I'm going to do 5. I'm going to go through the connector bead, which is the size 8. This is the reason I do these in size 8s, is so that I can easily see where to connect it. I'm going to do 5 and an 8 and then the next drop. There we go. And you can see here that I haven't pulled both of them tight. So can you see that loop of thread? So I need to make sure, once again, if you're using a double thread, you need to make sure you pull each one of them. Otherwise, you're going to end up with that. There we go. With that a little bit more on. So I'm going to do one more here, and then I'm going to show you how to do the embellishment. This is traditional spider web weave. And a little bit more advanced one could have double row of triangles here, diagonals here. You could have 3. It just uses up a lot of beads and a lot of time, but it's super, super easy. This is one of the very first designs in beadwork that I ever learned how to do. And I actually learned it directly out of that book. But once again, that book doesn't show you how to use it on the tiger tail, which is the steel cable that I use for support. So it was very, very delicate, especially if you're using it for an anklet or a bracelet. Those get a lot more abuse, and that's the reason I started doing this. But I also really love over embellishing things, and so that's why I went ahead and started to embellish. And I'll be going ahead and just leaving this thread to finish it out later, so you don't have to see me do the whole thing. And I'll start to embellish this piece for Elizabeth's collar. So once again, I've added 5. I'm going to connect to the connector bead, which is the size 8. And it's really easy if you have a different size there, so you don't have to count. I'm going to add 5. And another 8. And then my drop. Now this one I'm going to pretend, I'm going to end up taking this one out, but I'm going to pretend like this is going to be the center one. So you can see how I actually am going to add those drops to it. So we're going to pretend for a second that this is a center one. I'm going to add this. I'm going to add a bead and then a couple more. Then I'm going to add a drop. And 2 more. And now what's going to happen is this Swarovski crystal that, oh, I said it. This crystal at the center is going to actually be the drop. I'm going to skip these beads. I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to skip that one. And I'm going to go up through. I'll take this out as soon as I finish it. But we're going to pretend like this is the centerpiece beads. So the center of this necklace is going to look like that. And you can see the difference. See that?
Pretty.
So it's going to have just that little sparkle at the center. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this out because this is not the center of the necklace, but I just wanted you to see what it's going to look like. There we are. And I'm only going to do that for the center. I think I have 10 of those. So the center is going to be a little bit fancier. So I'm going to come up. There it is. Oh. The nice thing about Toho beads is you rarely have to cull them. You rarely have to get one that's slightly different and that you won't use. And you can see probably here that this one is, I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little bit wonky. So that one I'm just going to go put over here and not use. I may use it as a stop bead at the bottom because it doesn't matter. But Toho beads are generally beautiful. And you don't have to worry about the sizes and shapes. They're all pretty much the same. Okay. There we go. All right. So we're going to pretend like we've gone ahead and finished this entire design. I go ahead and I go all the way. I place spider all the way down and then finish off the thread. But what I want to do so that you guys don't have to wait for that is I'm going to now embellish between these spaces. I'm going to embellish here a little bit and here a little bit and here a little bit, here a bit. Sometimes I'll even do these. but I think this time I'm just gonna do here. And what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna do just a little size 6 and 2 size 11s on each side. So it'll just fill it in a little bit. So let's see how that looks. I'm gonna start a new thread. If I can find the end of my thread, sometimes this thread sticks. I think it's got a little bit, does it have a little bit of wax on it, do you think? Do you guys know?
I think that the heat in your extreme area, maybe
Oh my gosh.
using the nylon or something, having some effect, the humidity or something.
That could be it, absolutely. Yeah, because sometimes it sticks in there.
Mhm.
So the one thing I forgot to tell you is that you do want to go ahead and stretch this a little bit beforehand. And I did that before without saying it. So you do want to stretch your thread a little bit. Otherwise it has a little bit of a curve and it will stretch over the time. So you want to control that at the beginning and not at the end. So I'm going ahead and just threading up another thread here. And once again, I'm going to make a big chunky knot and hide it with the crimp cover. I love doing that. I like to cheat. I really do. Seem to be shedding here. If I'm not shedding, it's usually Maddie, my dog. There we go. I'm going to just do a knot there. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and thread down here. There we go. I'm going to go, I think, through the size 8. So my connector bead again, and I'm just going to add some beads that are going to hang out in the center here. So let's try one of those and one of those and one of those. That looks a little bit too small. I think I want to add a little bit more. Can you see that right there? Yeah. So let's see what happens when we add a little bit of gold to that. I might have to buy some more of those now.
Have to go shopping. What a bummer.
I know, right? Ooh, look at that. I'm into that. There we go. And I'm just going to go through the size 8 and then go on to the next one. So I'm just kind of whip stitching these into place. There it is. So that's what it's going to be like.
It's a pretty embellishment. Normally you don't fill in the netting, and so that's
Exactly. I just like overdoing everything. So I'm going to do 2 more of these, and then I'm going to find a different background so that you can see it. And of course, when you're done embellishing, you just tie off your thread and that's it. Then I'll show you how I put the crimp beads on. But it's just more of the same. There we go. righty. All right. Let me go ahead and find a different color background so that you can see that, but that's all there is to it. Once again, I'll come back with a different color background, and then I'm going to show you how to put the crimp bead on, but it's just that. But the most important part is, Elizabeth, how do you feel about this?
I love it. I turned my mic off because I had people walking back and forth behind me. I was afraid that'd be distracting. When you were talking about embellishments, all I could think of is you writing papers at Swarthmore with your filler words.
We used to have to go ahead. And you know what? That's funny that you should say that. I'll tell you why in a minute. We used to have to write papers that were way too long. You really could have written the papers in half the words. So I would just start adding stuff in there. And then one time I took this class on Virginia Woolf. And I just, I just wasn't really, I like her now, but I wasn't really into her then. So one day Elizabeth comes back. I think it was a Saturday that I hadn't gone to clinic defense with you. And she came back and I was writing on we had these little Macs back then that were just like these tiny little boxes. And I was writing and she said, "What are you doing? You look so serious." And I said, "I'm writing a paper on Virginia Woolf. And this argument is just like Swiss cheese. It's got huge holes in it." Anyway, so the necklace I'm making for you has huge holes in it. It's a Swiss cheese necklace.
I remember spending much time walking in and out of the room because I had to clean stuff up from the clinic defense, just yelling words at you. Like I'd come through and go patriarchy, and then I'd walk back through with another word.
Oh, and I would always try to work them in.
You got to make it fun. If you don't make it fun, then you're miserable. Everything you do, you should try to make it fun if you can.
Say that again to me. Say that again to me, Liz.
I just said you should make it fun if you can. There's no point being miserable. If you got to do something, you might as well make it fun. If there's a way to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was not really digging that Virginia Woolf class. So and it was you tried to make it fun for me because you'd be like, add this word. And so I would stick it in there. I'll be right back.
We're so glad you could join us today, Elizabeth. This is so nice.
So maybe you can see it a little bit better now. There we are.
Oh, that's beautiful, Hannah.
So there it is. Let me go ahead and show you how I add crimp beads. And then I think I'm done with you guys for today. So the crimp beads, well, I should say the crimp covers. I've already added crimp beads. The crimp belt cover is just going to go right over this little. This one's a little bit big. I probably should do a smaller, but you can see that I've just gone ahead and slid it right over the bead there, right over the crimp bead. And then it's open on this side, so I'll just close it up. Now this one's a little bit too big, so I will go and find a smaller one. If I close this up, it's going to be around some of those seed beads. But I just very carefully just squeeze it shut with my pliers. There it is.
It's so beautiful. I'm excited to go home and finish mine after work.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for all spending Saturday with me, and thank you, Kim, for talking with us about Toho beads. And Elizabeth, thanks for joining us and making this fun.
We do have one question about tips for using it as a bracelet. Other than just starting off shorter, are there any other tips for the bracelet?
Oh, absolutely not. Just make it shorter. And once again, I love these as an anklet for the summertime.
Oh, definitely. The anklet sounds great. Or
yeah, with
adding some of those, the belly dancer technique, adding some more bells to make
it,
noisy.
Oh, fun.
Hannah, for a protest.
I'm so excited.
Absolutely.
Hannah, you mentioned struggling with threading your needle. I did for a long time, and I have a couple of suggestions in case anyone else is struggling. If
Yeah.
you put a piece of white paper behind your needle, you can see the eye of the needle so much better, and it makes it easier to thread. The other suggestion I have is when needles are made, they punch through it. And one side is more open than the other. So if you're struggling, turn your needle around and try threading it from the other side of the hole.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I also color my light thread, the end of it, with a Sharpie, the cream.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So that I could see the end of it. So yeah, I just color the very end.
And
You know,
flat,
most of my problem is that I'm getting up there, and I used to not wear glasses at all. And I'm still, even though I've had glasses now for 3 years, I'm still not used to it. And so, so I still find myself struggling without the glasses. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I can put on my glasses. That makes it a lot easier.
We do what we can do, right? And
Right.
I
All right.
just wanted to show you guys Hannah's rebead different glass. This is her, let me get the cord out of the way. This is her little glass beaded, one of the sculptures that she made with the rebeads. And so they're all recycled beads, all these different colors. And we're gonna put a little tea light in there, but it's just the cutest little thing, I think. So she's also making another lantern. And then just because we really want you all to see what's going on with the state fair, we do have, what's her name? Susan. Uh-oh.
Hannah's on twice.
I know, sorry. When Susan, whoops, I turned it off. How did you? Oh, there we go. This is Sue Swanson. This is her submission for the state fair, and it's called Playground Friends. And it's just so cute.
Wait, I'm not seeing that. Oh, I'm not seeing that, sweetie. Show us the state fair one. Oh, there it is. Thanks.
There we go. So yeah, this is Sue Swanson. This is her state fair piece. So if anybody has their state fair pieces, remember to get them in. We need pictures to Becky and to me so that we know that if you need a display form or something, that how we can space it all out. So, but we really need your pictures by the end of the weekend if you want to do this, because we got deadlines here, right? Right, Becky?
Yep.
So we're just going to remove this. And thank you everyone for everything that y'all do for us and for joining us. And we just really love beading with you. And so have a wonderful Saturday and send us your pictures for your Toho designs. And if you want to do the peace ring, it's on Thursday night, August 4th, 7 p.m. Central Time. And message me for sure, but we want 100 people, so spread the word, okay? Peace through 1 gram of beads.
1 gram at a time.
Exactly. They connect us together all the way around the world. So thank you so much, everyone, for everything, for joining.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
That was great.
You guys have a great weekend.
Thank you.